Live, Laugh, Larceny discusses true petty crimes that may be disturbing to some.
Or could be easy listening to all you psychopaths out there.
All stories are based on actual events, but details may vary.
Listener discretion is not advised.
Live,
Laugh.
Larceny. Welcome to Live, Laugh, Larceny, a steamy romance novel about Crab Rangoon.
Oh, sign me up.
This is Trevin.
And I'm Amanda. So, Trevin,
Yes.
what is your dreadful dilemma?
I know last week I just did the movie dilemma about movies people should watch.
Yes.
But do you ever watch a TV show or binge a TV show and you kind of feel yourself taking on some of the characteristics of the show?
Oh, yeah, I do. There have been times where I have realized that I've been watching a little bit too much of the Real Housewives franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm over here sassing my husband like I'm a millionaire. And I have to really put myself in check. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like when I watch It's Always Sunny, it makes me want to drink. Or last time I was binge watching Dexter, I thought that murder was the only way to solve an issue. I was in traffic. I was picking my nose for a second, and I looked, and the girl in the car next to me looked right at me, and I was like, oh shit, now I have to go put on a green Henley and take this woman out. Like for a quick second, I thought that, and I was like, oh my God, I need to quit watching this show. So right now, Emily and I have a new obsession on TV. We're getting to it a little late. The show's over.
Okay.
But it's Succession.
Ooh.
Have you watched this yet?
I started that show, but I think I only watched maybe the first couple episodes. I haven't gotten too deep.
It took me a minute to get into it, but now I'm just totally caught. But everything about this show, I describe it as corporate Game of Thrones.
Oh, God.
Because
okay.
it's like the political side of, oh man, I can't wait till this person's in a room with this person. They have a conversation. And that sounds kind of weird to think of. If you really think about it, the show's kind of boring. It's just people doing business stuff, but there's just so much drama related.
Yeah.
Everybody's a backstabber. Everybody is always out for themselves. And they're very honest about it. So anytime Emily will tell me something in the house, I'm always thinking, what's the play here? What is she trying to achieve by doing this? Or I'll do the same thing to her and she'll be like, oh, do we have any mustard? And I'll say, no, we're out. And then a little bit later, I'll come around the corner with mustard and I'll say, boom, Succession betrayal.
You are going to traumatize that girl.
Yeah. So now everything is a tense corporate game in our house right now. Everybody is out for power.
Kind of love it. Are the animals involved? Or
Yeah, the animals are involved. Boots is the most vocal of them all.
Boots is probably like, when mom and dad kick the bucket, I'm going to try and take all their money.
That's true. Boots is pushing to be the successor.
I haven't fully dove into that, but now you're making me a little frightened because I'm kind of the same way. Shows will rub off on me, and now I don't want to be paranoid that everyone's coming for my wealth.
Everybody is so very toxic and manipulative, and I love it. It's kind of like Mad Men. I loved Mad Men. I was obsessed with Mad Men when I was watching it. And when people say, why should I watch Mad Men? I'm like, a bunch of white men in offices that have a lot of drama and talk. And it's like, that sounds awful. But they're both great. They're both great shows, and Succession's a lot of fun.
It's so funny that you brought that up because I'm kind of watching the comedy version of Succession with Jordan right now. It's The Righteous Gemstones on HBO. And it's about this really powerful religious family and who's going to get the big Easter sermon and who's going to get, this and that. It's just so funny.
I love that show.
Well, I also have a dreadful dilemma this week. And I am curious to hear your take on this one, Trevin.
I'm curious to hear your take, too.
The other day, I was at home with the kids, and I received a very sweet text message from my husband.
Aw.
And I'm going to read this out loud to you all, okay?
Okay.
The text says, "Hey, good morning, love. Hope all my girls have a good morning. Can't wait for the weekend with you all. Love you."
That's
Nice.
so sweet.
Nice, right? Fast forward to a few hours later. We're now at home. I don't even know what we were doing, playing with the kids or whatever. And Jordan just casually tells me, oh, you know that text that I sent you earlier? He's like, yeah, I was having a really bad headache. And there's this one spot in my forehead where it was like pulsating in my vein. Long story short, he thought in that moment, oh my God, what if I just died right now? Okay. So he was so
Interesting.
freaked out about this pulsing vein in his head that he thought to text me, which may sound considerate at first. But when you go back and you actually read what he said, he says, can't wait for the weekend. If he thought he was going to die, what was that going to leave me with? I would have been like, he was looking forward to the weekend with us and he couldn't make it. Like, that wouldn't make it any better.
Yeah, he was looking forward to not being with you, is what it sounds like to me.
Also, don't tell me I can't wait for the weekend when you aren't even guaranteed. Like, in your mind, you have a 50-50 chance of making it there.
He starts off by the promise of a future that he's not expecting to have.
Exactly, Trevin. Thank you. So I was just cracking up, and that's what I basically told him. I was like, why would you make these promises that you didn't even know if you could keep? But it was honestly funny, and I got his permission beforehand. I'm like, I'm going to make you my dreadful dilemma this week. Be prepared.
What a weird way to handle that. If he thought maybe there's a chance, I'd probably maybe tell somebody.
You know,
Men.
men, what are you going to do? So I'm glad that you see my side. At first, it appears to be a very sweet message, but when you unpack it and you dig a little deeper, you think, hey, why didn't you just tell me, hey, I'm not feeling so great? Or, not promise me the future that you don't even know is going to happen or not.
And also, how many near-death experiences are you having and just sweeping under the rug and not telling me about?
Don't even get me started. So, this week, we are going to be doing a game of Would You Rather.
Would you rather?
Oh, yeah, we are. Feels like a while.
I know. So I have the delight of going first.
And I have the pleasure of hearing it.
Okay. In the past, I think that there was only one other time that I actually admitted to you that I used a website to come up with a Would You Rather. What was it, like conversationstarter.net or something? And it was so embarrassing.
Yeah, because it just felt like we didn't have a good relationship if you were having to use that.
Yeah, you were like, what the hell? You can't conversate with me? So normally I come up with my Would You Rathers, but I did find a site, and the article was called 10 Absolutely Diabolical Would You Rather Questions That You'll Be Agonizing Over for Days.
Oh my damn, I don't have days. Thank you.
We do not. We are on a recording schedule here. But I did want to give the website a shout out. It is not conversationstarters.net or
How to
whatever.
be betterfriends.com.
Not that either. It's mirror.co.uk.
Okay.
Less embarrassing. Okay, Trevin. Would you rather get caught looking at porn in the office or accidentally send a rude email about your boss to your boss?
I think the boss one is what I'd have to go with.
Really? Okay, tell me why.
Technically, my direct supervision is pretty cool. And where I work has kind of a weird, gruff way about them. So that would probably be fine because everybody says a lot of things they don't mean sometimes. And the porn thing, at least my company anyway, is very protective of their computers, and there's a lot better chance of them like writing you up or firing you for nothing if it has to do with a computer for some reason.
But what if it was on your phone?
Oh, if it was on my phone.
See, I'm curious about this because I wanted to know from a male perspective, working in an office with a lot of other dudes. And my last job that I was actually going to was obviously me being a woman working with a bunch of other women. I was curious if the porn thing wouldn't be as weird for you to work with other men as it would be for women on women. I just think that would be so cringy. I don't know, but maybe it would still be horrific for a man-on-man situation.
Sounds like the porns we'd be watching. Okay, so for the angle you're asking for, Now that you put it that way,
Yeah.
it really kind of depends who caught me
Okay.
at my work. But I think as a male in Midwest, 90% chance if one of my supervisors caught me, they would probably not say anything and let it go.
That's what I'm saying.
So when you say like that and you mean on my personal device and not their computer, then yes, I will go with that then.
Okay, because yes, it doesn't technically have to be on their computer. I mean, I agree with you. I think that makes it way worse. And if you're at an office where their cybersecurity is like a really big deal, which most places I would assume it is, yeah, that would be bad. But if it was on your phone, I just feel like if someone walked in on me with porn on in an office, okay? I don't know. I just think that like maybe the boss wouldn't say anything to me, but it would have gotten around and it would have gone to the boss and then I would get in like big trouble or something. But I feel like with guys, and maybe I'm wrong here, and I don't like to do gender stereotypes usually at all. That's not really me. But I was just curious if you thought guys would be more likely to be like, he's just watching porn on his break, whatever.
I think it also kind of comes down to the type of culture your work has.
Yeah.
If you were at a more upstanding and respectable corporate space, I think even men would say something. But my job is very blue collar and Midwestern that it wouldn't be that way there.
Yeah.
But if it was a more standard corporate office, I don't think it would work like that.
Okay, interesting. I would definitely choose the same as you chose the first time. I would rather send the email. I just think that situation would really embarrass me beyond belief. So what about you, Trevin? You got one for me?
Yes, I do. And I must admit, I got mine secondhand.
What was your website?
Actually, I was looking up a thing and people were just throwing them out. And this was a Reddit that somebody had shared.
God.
And I thought, this is so good that I have to do it.
Okay.
So, would you rather have a horizontal butt crack or a vertical mouth? See what I mean? It was just too perfect.
Well,
I'd have to assume like your jaw would also somehow open vertically.
okay. The first one obviously made me laugh. So I'm just going back and forth and back and forth.
We would have to redesign our toilets for horizontal butt cracks. Somebody
and, like,
had commented.
Pants, and I'm trying to think of this all logistically. Wait, what did someone say?
Somebody had commented and said it would make your butt cheeks clap every time you use the stairs.
Oh my God. I kind of love that. I don't know, just because of the fact that not everyone is going to see my weird horizontal butt crack, I think I would go with that one because everyone is going to see your weird vertical mouth.
Yeah, that would be the thing too, because I was thinking of it kind of in a Twilight Zone way where everybody had the same. But then if you're just saying I would be the one that's different, yeah, I would definitely go with the horizontal butt crack.
Yeah.
Keep my mouth the same because your whole life would change in the way you do everything.
Yes.
But yeah, you would just have to buy a very specific custom-made turlet.
You'd have to have a custom toilet. You'd probably would have to get custom made pants because they're designed with the seam going vertically.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm just trying to picture what that would even look like or feel like. But yeah, you probably couldn't have any seam going up for your pants. You'd have to get them all custom. But let me just say, I would much rather do that than be walking around like,
Think about just kissing.
No, nothing would work right.
No, whistling, eating.
No podcasting? I mean, maybe, but you'd look so weird.
Yeah.
No one would be watching those TikToks.
Or everybody would.
Well, on that note, let's hear some ads. And we are back. And it's story time, Trevin.
Everyone's favorite time.
And I'm going first this week, and I am heading back to the news this time. You know, I was just telling Trevin before we recorded, I have a lot of really fun ideas for the future of stories, but this week it did take me a while to find one that I was really, really excited about. I finally did, so don't worry. But it was definitely one of those situations where I started out looking for one thing, And then the rabbit hole took me on a completely opposite turn of where I thought I was going to come out of this.
I love that. I like that because it feels like you are discovering it as you're wanting to help everyone else discover it too.
Yes.
So the excitement is there.
Yes. So this is a good one. And here we go. A good petty criminal should always be aware of their surroundings, examining their environment thoroughly far before any unlawful acts take place. They notice whether or not the nearest door is a push or pull. They observe their current crowd, trying to blend in to any conversation.
Yeah, it's crazy having a penis, am I right?
All while remaining laser-focused on their enemies. Even so, not all individuals are prepared for a life of low-stakes crime. Though many have criminal intent in their heart, only a few retain a keen eye. Today's story is about the devastation that can happen when you're not paying close attention. Unfortunately for 21-year-old Stephen Daniel, being observant of his surroundings wasn't a skill he possessed. He had been living in Snellville, Georgia for a while in 2011, yet he still couldn't remember how to get anywhere without his GPS.
In 10 feet, turn left to arrive home.
Stephen often found himself in tense social situations because he lacked the ability to read a room. His female coworkers were regularly appalled by his dirty jokes.
How is a man like a snowstorm?
Ugh, just say it, Stephen.
Because you don't know when he's coming, how many inches you'll get, or how long it'll stay.
Ew! Ugh! He also never had a long-term romantic relationship because his girlfriends never received the attention they so badly deserved.
Notice anything new about me, Steven?
You remembered to brush your teeth this morning?
I just got 12 inches of my hair cut off, you blind bastard!
He was even known to be a shit talker amongst his closest friends because they had regularly overheard Stephen gossiping about each one of his boys, not noticing they were standing nearby.
Tom should realize by now that I'm the number one guy in the group.
What the hell, man? Instead of considering that he needed to work on becoming more conscious of others and the world around him, Stephen decided that more money would solve all of his issues. And instead of working hard to earn some extra cash, Stephen planned to steal it. He just needed to find the perfect place to rob. Until then, Stephen decided to walk to a close-by Quick Trip convenience store for some fresh taquitos and a Gatorade. Entering into the Quick Trip, Stephen heard the refreshing sounds of fountain drinks being poured and smelled freshly baked miniature pizzas now packaged and displayed. Repetitive, cheerful tones came from the mouths of the employees to the customers, not bidding them farewell, but promising to see them later.
See you later. See you later. See you later.
There weren't a ton of people in the store, causing Stephen to think about catching a ride to a slightly bigger town nearby. He figured the bigger the town, the more he could blend into the crowd and come out with a steal.
My Rolex!
One of the many issues with this unorganized robbery was that Stephen didn't have his own vehicle. Without thinking it through, Stephen approached the first man who made eye contact with him inside of the Quick Trip.
Hey man, think I could catch a ride up to Lawrenceville?
The random man chuckled. I wish I could, but I'm currently on the clock. I saw a payphone out front. Maybe you can call yourself a ride. Not surprisingly, Stephen had never noticed the payphone before. He quickly headed towards the phone, excited about his rapidly changing plan. He dialed the numbers of his coworkers, best buds, and even ex-girlfriends. But every phone call ended with an excuse.
My car doesn't work.
Or some variety of no.
Taylor can't come to the phone right now, because she's dead.
With each hang-up, Stephen felt hurt and desperate for some extra cash. That is when he looked back inside the Quick Trip and spotted multiple cash registers. He didn't need a ride, a weapon, or a plan, after all. Stephen confidently approached the cashier's counter, blood pumping aggressively through his veins. He made eye contact with the man in the red polo standing behind the counter and stated his business in his most intimidating voice.
Yo, give me all the money in the fucking register! Right now! Give me all the money in the fucking register!
Yet, Stephen didn't get the scared or compliant reaction he was expecting from the worker. Instead, the poloed man looked him up and down, asking,
Why?
Taken aback by the response, Stephen recalled the answer he was given as a young boy, often by his parents. Knowing his voice was his only weapon, he mustered up his big boy voice and demanded,
Because I said so!
The collared cashier smirked at his remark. However, he did begin to take cash out of the register and hand it to him. Although the robbery was in full swing, something felt a bit odd to Stephen. Not only did the cashier appear to be amused by the whole thing, but other workers and customers continued making normal transactions at the next register.
See you later.
Once all the cash had been removed from the register and given to Stephen, his nerves began to ease. He turned around to exit the store when he saw the random man he'd asked for a ride earlier standing behind him in the checkout line. Only this time, Stephen noticed some details he had overlooked during their first encounter. This was no regular guy on the clock grabbing a coffee. This was an on-duty police officer. In late September of 2011, Lieutenant B.W. Brown from Snellville, Georgia Police Department entered a local Quick Trip. Once inside, a man, later identified as 20-year-old Stephen Daniel, asked the officer for a ride to another nearby town, Lawrenceville. Lieutenant Brown told Stephen he couldn't give him a ride and observed him go outside to a nearby payphone. After a few minutes, Stephen returned inside the convenience store and approached the checkout counter. Lieutenant Brown was standing directly behind Stephen as he began to demand the cashier to give him all the money. Lieutenant Brown described the event, saying,
I know what was going on, but he's not dumb enough to do this with me standing right behind him. The manager was laughing at the time he was putting the money in the bag because he was looking at me over the guy who was robbing him. I'm standing right behind him. I got a hold of him by the shoulder and placed him under arrest for robbery. It was a comedy type thing. In 34 years, I've never had one happen the way this did.
Ultimately, Stephen did get his ride to Lawrenceville. However, it was in the back of a squad car to the Gwinnett County Detention Center. He was charged with robbery by fear, with no punishment made public. Even if you aren't trying to become a petty criminal, keeping a watchful eye at all times is so important. If not, you could miss out on a flirty glance from a future partner, or miss out on a hilarious inside joke amongst friends. Worst case scenario, like today's petty criminal, you could even miss that there is a cop standing right behind you in line at Quick Trip.
Damn, Steven, you gotta just look around a little bit.
Oh my God. So thank you so much. You had a lot of voices. How did it feel playing the main character that whole time?
It was fun. I took kind of a shithead character from a tween comedy.
Yeah.
And then I did a mixture of that and your husband. But like in a higher register, obviously.
Yeah. I loved it. You got it. You captured it.
Yes.
Great job. This one was very fascinating. Correct me if I'm wrong, but have we ever covered a crime where it was robbery by fear because he didn't have a weapon? Have we ever done one of those before?
I don't think we've ever done robbery by fear. We might have done some stuff by intimidation, but never by fear.
Yeah, so that was really weird. When I saw that, I was like, robbery by fear? Oh my God. And it is kind of ironic because technically no one was afraid. The cashier was even laughing as they were giving him the money, and transactions were still going on next door. Like, no one was really afraid because the cop was just standing there like, here I am.
That is hilarious.
Kind of like we always do. The whole summary at the end, all of that was true. I don't know if he actually didn't have a vehicle, but he asked someone for a ride. So that's where I jumped to that conclusion. Also, I have no idea who he called or if he actually went to the Quick Trip without knowing that he was going to rob it. Like, I have no idea.
Like if it was kind of on a whim.
Yeah, I don't know if it was on a whim. I don't know if it was planned, but my God, if it was planned...
It was poorly planned.
It was not executed very good. But I mean, if a police officer himself is saying this was a comedy type of thing, then you know it's right for our show.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It was very interesting having somebody who was quoted in it just being like, this is a great thing for a comedy.
Yep. My God, I know I'm not a very observant person. It's something that I'm trying to get better at. So if you're not, don't take what I said personally. I'm not really either. But as I've gotten older, I have realized it is a very important thing to just be aware of your surroundings. And yeah, apparently Steven needs a lot more of that.
Yeah, I will say you're not the most observant sometimes with your surroundings, but
I'm
like
not.
overly observant. So it's very interesting being around you and I can kind of pick up on like, surprised you didn't notice that. Okay.
Yeah, Jordan's the same way. He'll be like, oh, you didn't see that and that and that and that and that and that. And I'm like, what? No, I am living in my own world. But as I've gotten older, I really have been actively trying to do better at that, just because I know for safety reasons, it's very important.
Yeah, and when you have to worry about the lives of other little gremlins.
Yep.
Probably nice to know.
That too.
Well, we are going to have a lovely little connection.
We are?
We are.
Yay! Okay.
But I will let you be surprised by what it is.
Okay.
So I've got my story this week. It is from the news, and it's actually the one I was going to tell last week, but it got bumped because I was feeling the driveway story so well. And funnily enough, because of that move, we had the awesome connection last week, and we're going to have a big connection this week too.
How weird. It was just something within you that knew. You're like, nope, I got to wait on this one and push it to this one. That is so weird.
Serendipity.
Love it.
So I think I already said this is from the news, but it's from the news, and let's get into this. And here we go. Success is difficult to come by in this day and age. It's not impossible. We can all do it. But achieving it is one of the hardest things a person can do. Smartphones are giving us attention issues. Inflation is causing us to work to afford living. And I know my therapist wouldn't approve of this last point, but have you seen how talented everyone else is lately? My God. I can take a petty crime and turn it into a Dr. Seuss style story, but there are people on TikTok who can defy gravity with their dance moves while being the definitive representation of beauty.
Every time you look at my butt, I make $10.
So what's the point in trying, right? Of course, I'm kidding with that last remark. We have to keep trying. We each are given this one life, and we won't be feeling very good at the end of it if we don't have anything to be proud of. But instead of focusing too much on success and all the issues that surround having it, I want to touch on a subject that makes success even harder. And that is haters. Haters are everywhere. They're in our schools, our offices, the internet, and even our homes. You don't always know when you're going to encounter one, but they know how to make their presence known. Sometimes, a person you love and trust can even transform into a hater before your very eyes.
Your ass looks fat in those jeans.
The stealthy ways of these human beings can make us feel like we are constantly under surveillance. Anytime we consider putting effort into something, there's always that fear holding us back. What if everyone laughs at me? What if I'm hated for saying this one thing? What if my art is stupid? You never know what minor achievement may awaken the jealous beast in others, allowing them to take the wind out of your sails with their destructive words.
Those washboard abs don't fix your face.
I don't think I'm sharing any new information when I say that this is a fundamental issue within those people. We all know it. Imagine an older person looking back on their life, plagued by decades of repeating the same cycles. The goals and challenges they had in their 20s are the same problems they can't seem to overcome now. They aren't unhappy with everything, just frustrated. One day they decide to listen to a podcast, maybe something lighthearted and fun, since they've been feeling down. The episode starts with the two hosts having a fun conversation, staying true to their format. The host's happiness begins to offend the older person. "This isn't what I would do if I had a show," they say to themselves before getting introspective. "Actually, I still haven't done anything I wanted to do with my own life." Sadly realizing the error of their ways, the older person swallows down the guilt, turns off the podcast, and runs to Apple, where they leave a 1-star review that is more telling of their own mental state than the show they've chosen to attack.
Curse you, talented fucker!
And scene. As you can see, the failures of others can cause them to perpetuate these feelings of negativity. They couldn't find success, and they're jealous of you for trying, so they're less reminders of their shortcomings if they can cause you to join the party. If they had their way, we would just be a world of bitter losers. And if I'm being honest, I think we already kind of are. Today, I'm going to tell a story for all of you who have encountered a hater. On one hand, you may feel a bit better about your situation, but on another, you might get a little angry. Dedication, sacrifice, life or death, essential. These are the words most commonly used when describing youth sports. Parents spectate as their children wage war on tracks, courts, and fields of various designs. Which child will emerge as the dominant athlete?
Good job, honey.
And which parent will unjustly steal the achievement for themselves?
What are you looking at, loser?
In North Texas, these were the unspoken questions on everyone's mind. It was a tradition, a culture. No matter what age, gender, or sport, it was always the same message: spill blood and win. No one knew this message better than Jessica. As a youth sports coach, Jessica ran her teams on 3 core principles: teamwork, fairness, and winning. Practices would run a couple hours longer, children would be asked to memorize 10-page playbooks, and everyone was required to stay clear of performance-enhancing drugs. Because, they're only 9 years old. Come on. Jessica took all her experience as a college sports star to build little champions of her own. And whether the sport was softball, soccer, or basketball, they won. With each championship title added to her trophy case, she cemented herself as the darling of Burleson, Texas, a stone-cold killer, a champion. I am a soaring eagle, but with the feathers of a duck. Still deadly, yet water-resistant. The basketball court is my bitch, and I will prevail. Amen. Jessica slowly opened her eyes, finishing her pre-game ritual. We just gotta win this game, and it'll be another undefeated season in the books. She made her way downstairs, where her husband was packing a bag. I got the sandwiches, the juice boxes, and the chips. I packed a little extra since we have that second game after, he said to his wife. I hope you're not nervous. You've done a good job with these girls, and even if you don't go undefeated, you had a great year. Jessica put her head down, allowing her husband to kiss her forehead. Together, the parents packed up their 2 children and drove to the game. Once at the Burleson school, the nameless husband took the kids to get seats while Jessica visited her girls in the locker room. The moment the locker room shut, all of the team went silent out of respect for their coach. All right, you've been undefeated up until today, Jessica said, looking over her group of scared 4th graders. It's up to you to decide if you're going to be undefeated tomorrow. So get up and prove your worth to me, your parents, and yourself on that court. The whole team is counting on you, so let's go! The team erupted in cheers as they lined up to go out to the court. Leading the charge, Jessica could hear the crowd's low rumble through the door. She cracked her neck and threw it open. Due to the attendance for these 4th grade games, the gym had one designated side of bleachers for viewers, and the other reserved for coaches, players, and league staff. Jessica scanned over the packed crowd, looking for her family and any adversarial parents she recognized. Not only was this the last game, with the undefeated season on the line, but the finale was against Alvarado, Burleson's neighboring rival. In Jessica's many years in youth sports, she'd witnessed a lot of ugly run-ins with Alvarado, and heard even scarier stories secondhand. There was just something about being similar sizes and in almost identical location that makes it easier for these people to hate each other. Jessica waved as the crowd cheered for her girls. It felt good to hear the team getting the recognition they deserve. She smiled to herself, finally taking a moment to recognize her own good work. But just as she was beginning to loosen up and relax, a voice from behind her began calling for her attention. Psst, hey, you gonna cheat and steal yourself another undefeated season? the scorekeeper said from his table. Oh shit, it's fucking Gary, Jessica thought to herself as she sat down. Gary was not her favorite scorekeeper for the youth sports organization. As a parent from Alvarado, he already harbored a prejudice towards Jessica, but she knew they wouldn't be friends even if they lived in Burleson. Ignoring the remark, Jessica kept her focus on the game. The ref blew his whistle as the girls got in position for the opening tip-off. With a good heave, the old man tossed the ball straight up, signaling the start of the game. Burleson immediately recovered the tip as 9-year-old Susie went directly down and scored a 3-pointer. The crowd couldn't believe the nice shot as Jessica cheered on her point guard.
Let's see some more of that!
Returning to a seated position, she heard another strange remark from behind her. Must have been a lucky shot. No way you taught her that. Jessica whipped her head around and stared at Gary, saying everything she needed to say with her angry mom face. What? I didn't say anything, Gary said, acting very accused. The rest of the game went on like this. Whenever Alvarado scored, Gary would brag.
You suck.
And whenever Burleson played well, he was quick to call them cheaters.
Oh, that's a foul.
Audible sighs, grunts, and the occasional loser disguised as a sneeze or hurled her way.
Loser!
With each remark more grating than the other, Jessica remained steadfast, setting a good example for the team. However, everything reached its boiling point in the final 2 minutes of the game. With the undefeated season within her grasp, Jessica watched as Susie attempted a layup, which led to a collision, causing both girls to fall to the floor. Whistles blasted from mid-court as the referee ran out to check on the girls. Wow, you teaching your kids to tackle now? Gary quickly spouted off. Feeling the emotions from Susie's fall and Gary's constant berating, Jessica had reached her limit. Stop being a dipshit! Jessica blurted out, quickly cutting herself off. Gary gasped as he quickly stood up. You can't talk to me like that, especially not in public, he said in a much less heckling tone. I'm going to need you to step outside with me so we can resolve this issue. Jessica turned away as Gary grabbed her arm. I'm not asking, he said, pulling a police badge out of his pocket. Confused at the situation and finally giving in, Jessica began to walk out with Gary.
Excuse me, the rulebook says that if a coach isn't present, that team forfeits.
The other coach yelled, inserting themselves into the situation. Gary stopped and looked back. Well, if that's how your rulebook works, according to my rulebook, I need to detain this coach for a breach of the peace. So by your definition, I guess she does forfeit. Jessica's team began weeping on the shiny basketball court as she made her way to the parking lot with Gary. As the two walked down the empty hallways, the heckler turned off-duty police officer dialed the local Burleson police, requesting their services in arresting Jessica. After a brief investigation by the Burleson police, Officer Gary Melson decided not to press charges for disorderly conduct. Instead, he chose to contact the Youth Sports League and have her disqualified from coaching another game in Alvarado later that day. And nothing else bizarre or petty happened. The end. Just kidding. To the recap. In mid-February of 2015, 31-year-old youth basketball coach Jessica Kerr was heckled by a scorekeeper during the final game of her undefeated 4th grade team's season. According to Cron.com, the scorekeeper, later identified as neighboring town's police captain Gary Melson, taunted and ridiculed the coach throughout the game. In the final 2 minutes, a foul was called, leading to a sneering remark from Melson. That's when I turned around. What I wanted to say was quit being a dipshit, but all I said was quit being a dip, she said. No one heard it except for him and me. Melson's police chief offered a different story, writing an 1,100-word Facebook post stating that the basketball coach, quote, screamed out a profanity, namely using the word dick, in front of a bleacher full of parents and kids. This action caused numerous parents to rise to their feet, complaining and demanding action from Captain Melson. However, the Burleson Youth Association performed an investigation, finding that all of the parents and family were sitting at the far side of the gym and had no knowledge of what happened. The only witnesses during the investigation was the referee, Andy Love. I turn around to report my foul, and I've got some guy standing on the edge of the gym floor, grabbing a coach by the arm and trying to pull her off the court, Love told KTXA. That's when Melson flashed his badge and ordered Kurz to leave the gym, forfeiting the final game of her undefeated season. According to Chapter 14 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, an off-duty police officer who is outside his jurisdiction may detain or arrest someone if they cause, quote, a breach of the peace. After a brief investigation by the local PD, Melson decided not to press charges. 2 weeks later, Jessica Kerr received a letter from Melson Station stating that she had a warrant on charges of evading arrest. Wanting to put the ordeal behind her, Jessica turned herself in the next day, paid her bail, and spent 6 hours in jail before being released. The whole situation seemed to have reached its conclusion until over 6 months later, when Jessica's attorney told her the district attorney would take up her case, causing her to stand trial for a Class A misdemeanor and face the possibility of 1 year in prison. With nothing else to lose, Jessica Kerr went to CBS 11, where she was able to get her side of the story out. A few days later, her lawyer announced that all charges were dropped while making this statement. "We believe Captain Melson's actions were an abuse of his authority as a law enforcement officer. At this time, we are considering all of our clients' options to protect her rights and make sure that something like this never happens again." Doesn't that just make you a little angry? This is definitely one of those situations where certain people should not be in positions of power. And to abuse your power over youth sports, no less. Growing up in a small Midwestern town, I get it. Well, I don't get it, but I've witnessed it plenty of times. Parents need to champion their kids and find their own self-worth in their child's ability to score various types of goals and points against other little demons. It happens. But the haters, woof. Nothing brings out the haters like someone caring about something. Whether it's a person who is passionate and upset about the quality of something, or just an asshole wanting to put down someone trying their best. Strong feelings are a breeding ground for haters and their damaging comments. Even the quote, "haters are my motivators," has me feeling a little weird. Google tells me that Ellen DeGeneres is the one that originated this quote. And well, she's also a complicated figure with allegations of being a hater. Why does everything have to be so complicated? No matter what your feelings are towards morally questionable people, just know that we can make the world less convoluted by just being nice ourselves. If we can all be good and honest with one another, there would be no need for this much confusion. We could all achieve our goals while lifting others up to achieve their own. Unfortunately though, there is no currency in kindness. And like Megadeth once wrote, peace sells, but who's buying?
Okay, I know this is a he said, she said, but is it confirmed that he was heckling her?
She says he did.
Okay. I mean, something set her off to even almost curse him out.
She had said in one of the articles that her husband had heard it, which in my story I said he went to the other side. Maybe he had came over to be with her. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Her husband had heard it, and I think she had said some other staff member had heard it. But they didn't really go too much into that, surprisingly. But she said she had witnesses, and nobody ever said that she didn't.
And that's honestly just kind of a technicality, I guess. But I just wanted to know. I mean, something had to have happened to make her even feel the need to react to this guy. But how disturbing is it that just because he didn't like how she was treating him, that he used his power to be like, you're going to forfeit your team that you've worked so hard on. Mm-hmm. You're going to forfeit this game. Can you imagine those young kids? They were probably devastated.
Yeah, they said that they were all very upset and very confused because, well, one, they lost their undefeated season and they all went out to see what was going on. So they watched her get taken out by a cop too. So traumatic on two different levels for these poor kids.
Oh my God. Just because he had that power and he didn't like that she almost called him a dipshit.
Yep. And that's the thing too, is I don't want there to be much doubt on him being a heckler because every single article did not ever say alleged heckler. Everybody was very quick to say he was a heckler.
Okay. Then he was. Okay.
I'm going to take that as for surely that happened.
Okay. There was something shitty that would have caused a little league coach to snap at somebody. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. There had to have been something.
Yeah, and it really does seem like, which this is probably my favorite person to poke fun of in this show, is a toxic male who is also very fragile. Very favorite trope of mine. But that's exactly what the villain of the story is. If he's sitting here heckling, he has something against her because, she's the rival town and whatever. He works for the league and he's a cop. He's just poking at her. She gets mad. And then the second something kind of hurts his little fragile heart, he's like, oh, I'm going to pull the cop card.
Yeah.
That's the perfect villain for my kind of stories. But then you can tell that this was so deliberate because they still drug it out to say, oh, now you evaded police. And then even months later down the road, oh, the DA is going to actually take our case up on it. Now we're going to try to get you for a misdemeanor on this.
And you said he wrote like a whole essay on it.
Yeah, he had gotten with his chief, and his chief had wrote this very long Facebook post to the community that was like, this woman has had a long history of spouting off and saying mean things at basketball games, and she's a troubled coach.
What?
And
So did she end up losing her job or anything, did it say?
no, it didn't say she did. They dropped the charges.
But it probably damaged her reputation a bit.
I'm sure it probably did, and it probably just made that rivalry even worse.
Yeah. And it wasn't just a statement that like they wrote up for the charges. They put it on freaking Facebook.
Yes, and that's just another thing that shows you how petty they were. That cop belongs to the rival town who they were playing against in this 4th grade game, which who cares? And the toxic, worried man gets his feelings hurt. So then the other man comes to his defense and it's like, you know what I'll do? I'll make a Facebook post.
Oh my God.
And he made the whole story sound so much bigger than it was. He said that she screamed dick and that it was right in front of a whole bleacher of children and parents. And they had said that the parents like begged for the officer, like, please do something about this mean woman.
Yeah.
And then you find out from the referee, he's like, what the hell? The bleachers had probably like 12 people on them and nobody heard what was going on. But even the referee's just sitting there thinking, out of nowhere, the scorekeeper's trying to yank my coach off the court. What the hell's going on here?
Dude, that is one of the pettiest stories I've heard in quite some time.
And then 6 months later, you still try to hit her with a year of prison or a possibility of it. With a
yeah,
misdemeanor.
she had to spend 6 hours in jail over that. I know that's not a lot in the grand scheme of life, but like, for what? For almost calling you a dipshit?
Yeah, like you can just tell it was somebody felt very offended by how they were treated, even though they were asking for it.
And you did say that this was a smaller town, or we think it maybe was.
I think they were smaller towns in North Texas.
When you first said it, I was like, why is a cop working at this game? But then I was like, okay, come on. And I reflected back on like my upbringing. There were cops doing this and that all over the town that I grew up in.
And it just helps him be part of the community too. If he's like, I'm the scorekeeper on the Saturday, so I know the family a little better.
Yeah.
It says Burleson, Texas has a population of 63,665.
Okay. I mean, it's not super small, but it's also not super large.
Yeah.
Right?
It's bigger than I thought.
Yeah, damn. Well, connections, Trevin. We both had cops
Surprise cop.
popping out over here at the Quick Trip, popping out over here at the basketball game. Surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah, that was so good when you had said, oh, the guy. I like how you made yours seem a lot more like a twist just because you were seeing everything from his perspective. So it was a twist to him.
Yes.
But yeah, yours was a big twist. Mine was a big twist.
They were both huge twists. You were like, he pulled out a badge. I said, what?
Cops in plain sight.
Yeah, what? My police officer was in his uniform.
Yeah.
My guy just lacked awareness, but they were both surprise cops.
Yeah. So that is serendipitous. That's 2 in a row of good ones.
Wow, that is wild. I love that connection so much. I hope that everyone out there is having the best week. And just remember, no matter the crime, big or small, in the end, we're all doomed.
Doomed to look at our vertical mouths. Mwah, 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 mwah.
Bye.
See ya.
Surprise! It's not a cop. It's just the end of our episode.
And if you take on the personalities of the TV shows you binge, let us know what shows are making you act out. Find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, or Threads. Live, Laugh, Larceny.
And have you ever witnessed a petty fight at a Little League game? If so, please send us your true petty crime stories. livelaughlarceny@gmail.com.
And if you're thinking how you can help us as a show, get your horizontal buns down to Apple, Spotify, or Good Pods and give us 5 stars. I got the sandwiches, the juice bags. Juice bags. Juice bags. What up, juice bag? I got the sandwiches, the juice bag. God damn.
Oh, wait, what are you trying to
Juice boxes, juice boxes.
Juice bags.
Juice bags. I don't think bags ever get said. I'm just thinking of sandwiches in a bag. Oh, no, I said packing a bag. Okay.
And you're thinking of a douchebag, probably.
Probably.